Well, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey, everybody, Cantonese Cat. I'm going to talk about my top 5 stocks. The first one is going to be Palantir. You remember maybe just a few days ago, I was calling that Palantir was hitting resistance. And sure enough, what has it been doing? It looks like it's hit resistance. It looks like it's doing a little bit of a retracement here. So why is it that we're hitting resistance? So first of all, we're following this very nice pitchfork over here where price just basically bounced towards the bottom of the pitchfork here, broke through, and then it's just been staying on top of this pitchfork up here for a very long time, for more than a year. And currently we kind of get really close to the top of the pitchfork, and in conjunction with the fact that it's just way outside the weekly Bollinger Band, and also in conjunction with the fact that it's also way outside the upper Bollinger Band on the monthly chart. So the monthly Bollinger Band, upper Bollinger Band looks like it wants to continue to expand, so I think there's still going to be room for Palantir to continue to go up. But it's just not ready yet. I think next month the Bollinger Band is probably going to end up expanding even further, and I can see the price totally be able to hit maybe around like 35 or so. But it's just simply hitting a little bit of a resistance here, and it just has to follow gravity. That's what it's doing. Now, looks like it's retracing here a little bit, right? That's what it looks like. How far is it going to go back down to retrace? Well, there are a few options here, and the way that I like to look at these options is this. It could very well after this breakout of this horizontal zone over here around anywhere from 29 to 30, it could just basically back test that level, and it'll still be a very bullish chart, just forming a little bit of higher low. It could potentially go lower than that, right? It could potentially go to the pitchfork level right around here. It depends on where it lands. It could potentially be around 28. And 28 is going to be a lot of confluence here, because you're going to talk about 28, you're talking about looking at not the Subichi, looking at the Ichimoku cloud. You're actually going to probably end up having a tank in the kitchen kind of hit around the 28 level over there. So that'd be a very confluent zone. We could potentially just kind of go down here, wick down here, and close the week back above like 29 to 30. Next week, I can totally see that potentially happening. I can also potentially happening that the highest that it could end up retracing back to and getting support could be at this wick over here, which is essentially around $30. And it could potentially go down a little bit lower and back test some of the candle top over here. So really anywhere down below, all of these are possibilities. 30, 29, 28, or even like the bottom of the Bollinger support band, which is currently around like 25. Anywhere around here is possible. Just look at a volume shelf. Landing anywhere around here is possible. I just see that it's probably going to want to cool down after this big giant move. It generally just does that. After a big giant move like this, it might push up a little bit higher, but then it generally needs to kind of cool down here a little bit and try to find support underneath. I just don't know how far and how long this is going to go. There is always the catalyst of possible inclusion onto the S&P 500, right? So it's hard to say for sure, but what I can say is that based on technical analysis, it does look like it wants to try to retrace back down, maybe a little bit further to like $30, maybe even this week, maybe even tomorrow. Who knows, right? But I do think that longer term, it doesn't matter. Longer term, I'm looking for the weekly Bollinger Band to expand. Longer term, I'm looking for it to continue to ride up the channel. And longer term, I'm also looking at the monthly Bollinger Band to continue to expand, allowing price to really go much, much higher over time. If you ask me where I think price is going to go in the long run over the next 3 to 5 years, I would say this. I'm not going to draw a beautiful Fibonacci. I'm just going to do a rough one here, all the way from the top over here to the bottom over here. And generally, I like to look at targets maybe around like 1.618 or 2.618. I can totally see price potentially hitting the 1.618, 2.618 in around 3 to 5 years. So you're talking about maybe around 2028, 2029, you can potentially get a 3-digit Palantir. If it ends up hitting that area before that, I would be, ecstatic, but I can totally see it just kind of bouncing, and eventually hitting the 100, the triple digit zone somewhere around here. It may even be at the bottom of the channel and it hit up there, right? I'm just not too ambitious that it has to go up to like 3 digits within a couple of years. Although if it ends up doing that, I might end up selling some of my position, actually, to be completely honest with you. This is my number one holding. I also am very, very bullish here for the long term. The reason why I'm very, very bullish here in the long term is because the last 3 monthly candle has been absolutely on increasing volume. And when you're having these green candles here on increasing volume, this is a good sign. Like basically it just tells you it probably wants to have a little bit more of a bullish continuation. This looks like 3 white soldiers to me. So it looks like it wants to just keep going higher, especially volume tends to be supporting the trend. So I'm very happy about Palantir. I'm just going to stay put. But yeah, if it hits like triple digit in a hurry, I might sell, part of my position, although it'll be very, very, very hard to do because I still think that they're executing both in terms of fundamentals and also technicals are also following it. That's my number one stock I want to talk about. Number two is going to be Tesla. I have a hard time being bearish on Tesla. The reason why that is, I'll show you a couple of things. The reason why that is one thing that I generally look at, if you remember, you can see my video on Bollinger Band. One thing I generally look at is the monthly Bollinger Band. I love to look at the 20-month moving average. If the 20-month moving average changes trend, that really tells me this is a bear trend, right? And if the 20-month moving average curls from going down to up, that really tells me that, hey, maybe you're having some longer-term, trend change here too. Last time we went from down to up was right around before this big giant parabolic move. Do I think that this big giant move is going to happen again? No, I don't think that's going to happen where price just went from like $12 already to like 400 where it's just like 30x, right? I don't think it's going to happen. But I do think that a bigger move, most likely to the upside, is going to happen. I like the fact that this is like a hammer candle. And in addition, looking at the Bollinger Band here on the monthly, I also like the fact that it had broken back inside the cloud, and right now it's just kind of hanging around the bottom of the cloud. So breakthrough, back test, this is actually not a bearish look at all. It did end up wicking all the way down over here to try to absorb a lot of the demand, to test demand, and sure enough there's a lot of demand underneath here. Just like there's a lot of demand underneath here between like 140s and 170s. Now there's a lot of demand really underneath 200, right? Back tested 10 communication passed. Right now it's at the bottom of the cloud. Like there's really nothing really too bearish about this chart. Looking at the higher time frame, as long as price can consolidate sideways here for a little bit longer, you're going to end up having a Tenkan Kijun cross that might be coming soon. And I think this Tenkan Kijun cross, the bullish cross, is going to happen probably over the next month or two or three, and that would be precipitating a very, very strong bullish move moving forward. The last time we have a bullish cross that happened was like right there before this big giant parabolic move, right? Again, do I think it's going to make that move? No, I do not think so. I'm going to talk a little bit about like the targets and things like that in a little bit. If you're looking at the lower time frame, by lower time frame I mean like weekly. If you look at a weekly chart, what are you really seeing here on the Ichimoku here? You're hitting some resistance here, but you're also having the Kijun underneath as support, right? All of this is happening on increasing volume with a little bit of uptrend, hitting resistance here, getting rejected here as expected. And so far it's only been 1 day, right? And we're getting rejected here a little bit of the cloud, which is not unexpected. I did not expect it to just kind of push for the cloud on the very first try. And if you look at the Tsukuichi cloud, it actually tells you something a little bit different. But right now it's just basically price just stuck in range, stuck underneath the cloud, and stuck on top of the Kijun, right? It's stuck in a range of support and resistance. It's just stuck. The Tsukuichi cloud tells you a little bit of a different story. It seems like we have broken back about the Tsukuichi cloud, and right now we're just kind of doing a little bit of a back test. It's still stuck in a range though, top of the cloud, and the Tenkan over here, which you just got rejected last week, right? So depending on if you like to look at which part of the cloud tells you a little bit of the story a little bit differently, but currently it's just stuck in a range on a lower time frame, and it's just made a higher low compared to over here, right? So I cannot really be that bearish in terms of looking at Tesla even on a lower time frame. Another thing I also like to look at is that it has really flipped the Bollinger support band from resistance. You see how there was resistance over here, how there was resistance over here. It was negative sloping, and now it's positive sloping, and now it flipped in from resistance to support, right? How can I be bearish on this? It can potentially go down further a little bit to back test before going up higher. But I do think that right now it's a pretty decent zone to potentially find support at, which is at the top of the Tsukuichi cloud over here. Now, nothing's ever absolute. I can totally see it gravitating back towards 200 and kind of back test it once more before going up, but there's no guarantee that something like that has to happen. At this point, like I've been very, very happy to accumulate when price is underneath 200. I was very happy to accumulate when price is underneath 200. Now the price is over 200, I'm still happy to kind of accumulate anywhere less than 220, although I'm not as aggressive as I was, before. But I'm still kind of a little bit more happier to accumulate because it just looks nice. It looks like it's really flipping a lot of these resistance over here into support. And initially this, big giant move up was just way too far overextended, and you have to kind of correct and retrace back to the mean. That's exactly what it's doing. And during this process, it basically flipped the 20-week moving average to point up now, right? So there's really nothing too bearish about this chart. On top of that, the big giant parabolic move up over here has caused the super trend to be positive, right? And it just basically came back almost back to exactly the super trend right there, and then bounced. Again, I have a hard time being too bearish on the Tesla chart. Now, if you're asking me if I can even look at a lower time frame, I was just looking at like the 1 hour time frame just to kind of for giggles, if you will. And if I look at the 1 hour time frame, it really does look like, I don't know, like it might be a pretty decent area where it could bounce, because it basically just flipped the 1 hour Ichimoku cloud from resistance here to support, right? It does have a little bit of a bear flag look over here, just like over here, a little bit of a bull flag look over here. They don't always have to work out. Right now we're still at support. Can it break down underneath like a 1 hour cloud? Of course, like it's a lower time frame chart. I don't really anticipate this cloud to absolutely have to hold, but I think the concept is there. Flip it from resistance to support, and right now it's testing support at a much lower time frame. So I think that on the daily, you're having a little bit of a hard time kind of breaking back above into the Ichimoku cloud, but you're also getting some support down here, even on the daily Tenkan, right? So this is overall, if you ask me on the weekly, on the monthly, I think that is really at the beginning of a flipping a bull trend. I do agree with the rate Masby. I actually do think that Tesla is going to do very well. If you ask me how far I think Tesla is going to go, I'm going to basically say that because of this big giant volatility that we've had over here, if you do a Fibonacci sequence, you look at the extension levels, which generally could give you a good clue in terms of how far things go. I can totally see it maybe hitting 2.618 or even like 1,200, somewhere around there over the next 3 to 5 years. I can totally see that happening. And that would be a diminished return compared to the last cycle, because the last cycle, it really did not care. If you do the cycle high here, the cycle top, the cycle bottom, you can see that price just kind of way overshot all of these Fibonacci levels and just went to the moon, right? I don't really anticipate that to happen this cycle at all, because market cap's huge, because I just don't think that it has that crazy amount of growth that's being really being it. But hey, the fundamentals can be executed, it could go a lot higher, of course, right? But I'm more anticipating, based on technical analysis, I can totally see it hitting like 1.618, 2.618, 3.618, somewhere maybe around like the next 3 years, maybe a little bit longer. We'll see. That's kind of what I'm thinking here with Tesla. So I'm happy to hold this. Now, the third stock I have that has the biggest exposure is Nvidia. Nvidia, I'm kind of looking at this in a little bit of a different line. Like, Nvidia has been a beast and made like a 10x, right? And what you're seeing here, whenever it gets a little bit too overextended on the upper Bollinger Band here on the monthly, you usually end up having a few months of correction, right? Now, Nvidia has earnings on Wednesday. It's hard for me to say exactly what's going to happen. All I gotta say is I have a hard time seeing price wanting to close the month above the upper Bollinger Band, because we've just been going sideways for like 3 months to really try and cool down this big giant exponential move. I can totally see it just being a little bit of a muted response, even if earnings is really good. And if earnings is really good, it could potentially get priced in as a Bollinger Band, as upper Bollinger Band continue to expand to allow price to go up higher. I think it could end up working out over the next couple months, but I just have a hard time really seeing that shooting up with earnings. I just have a really hard time seeing that. And that goes along, if you look at the weekly chart initially was very much overextended, but it's not as overextended anymore. It does make me wonder whether or not the earnings could potentially end up allowing price to kind of hit the upper Bollinger Band here around the weekly again, which is going to be close to the previous all-time high over here. Or whether or not it can actually end up having, even if earnings really good, you might actually have having like a little bit of a negative reaction and kind of backtest the 20-week over here, which would be a very, very significant move from like the 125, 120, somewhere around there, going to like all the way to like 111. That would be like a very horrific move for a lot of people. But that would be another corrective move, and I would not be that scared about it. The other thing too, just psychologically speaking, we look at the daily chart. Like, why are we having a hard time breaking above this area over here? Well, it's just, if you're into the whole trend line thing, you're into like drawing lines and things like that, this is actually not a bad look to it, is it? You have this negative trend line over here, and you basically kind of broke back above, and you're trying to basically just doing a little bit of a back test, seeing whether or not you find some solid footing before going up higher. This is not a bearish look to me by any chance. It looks like how it does every single time when it wants to, break above any negative trend line and back test it. It looks like it's just basically doing the same thing over and over again. Right now, I'm leaning more bullish than bearish when it comes to earnings, but I just have a hard time really seeing that breaking way above the monthly Bollinger Band, because that would make it, a little bit too overextended. I don't think it's too overextended anymore, because I always worry about price being a little bit too far away from the Tenkan, the blue line over here on the Ichimoku cloud. It's no longer too far away. Like, back tested, wick, found a lot of support, bounced. This is a very, very bullish look. If anything, I think that Nvidia is probably ready to move a lot higher over the next couple of months or so. And I do worry a little bit that currently we're at a little bit of a trend exhaustion. What I mean by that is, I'm not sure price is going to make another 10x anymore. I think price might make another like 3 to 4x as we move forward. The reason why I say that is, and I keep on showing this, the reason why I say that is because during previous cycles too, wherever you have a trend exhaustion where price is kind of getting a little bit close to like the top, where price could potentially go up another like 2, 3, 4x, but it's not going to make that gigantic move like it did before anymore. The Bollinger Band, the lower Bollinger Band, stops expanding and starts contracting, right? So over here, this happened around September 2020, where price did end up making another high, but the Bollinger Band ended up contracting, telling you that this trend is, exhausting, right? Over here, same thing. The Bollinger Band really started to contract around January 2017, and that's when you have this candle over here. Price went ahead and made another 3x after that, but the major trend really has gotten exhausted. I am seeing the same thing. I'm worried about the Bollinger Band starting to contract, so I'm thinking that the current month or 2 or 3 is going to be probably where we're going to end up having a little bit of exhaustion, but that still can mean potentially another like 2, 3, 4x moving forward, right? If you get up to 400, that's not too shabby, even though the trend is exhausting and you might be going up on bearish divergence on RSI, kind of like it did, in the previous cycle. Whenever you have a trend exhaustion, price continues to just make higher highs, on bearish divergence. Whenever you have a trend exhaustion, price just kind of continue to make higher highs on relative bearish divergence, where RSI just didn't really make another higher high, right? So I can totally see that right now we're at a juncture where RSI is not going to make another higher high. You might end up still hitting some lower highs, and price could still end up going up a lot. Unless if by the end of the year we get to 200. If by the end of the year we get to 200, then I think the low Bollinger Band could continue to expand, and I think that the RSI could potentially continue to make another higher high, and that would be absolutely incredible sight to see. But yeah, Nvidia is my number 3, stock exposure. I just wanted to kind of show you. I think the corrective move is done. If it ends up doing a little bit more correction from earnings, it's probably not going to make another low. And I can potentially see it being a little bit of a muted response, which would really upset a lot of people until September when the real move comes. So that's Nvidia. My 4th position is Shopify. I like Shopify, and it's not a stock that a lot of people really talk about anymore because things have just done nothing for like the whole year, right? So people generally don't like that. When price has done nothing for a whole year, people lose interest. They don't talk about it anymore. But I'm actually very, very, very interested in holding Shopify. I bought down here in the 20s and the 40s. I bought down here in the 50s, and I've been buying down here again in the 60s, and even like up in the 70s. I've been buying. I think that this is a very early bull trend. If you look at the 20-month moving average, it's really been curved right here, and it's been serving as some pretty decent support. If you look at the Fibonacci level by itself, I think that the Fibonacci level is basically been resistance and been very good support. It's just been range bound between the 0.236 and 0.382. As expected, it's climbed from one level to another, and it's doing a little bit slower because it's the beginning of the bull market. But this is still a pretty bullish chart where for the most part it's just been making higher highs and higher lows. If I add the Ichimoku cloud, it's going to tell you basically the price did exactly what you thought it would do. It simply tested to get closer to the bottom of the monthly Ichimoku cloud, got rejected, came back down, tried to find support here in Tenkan, wasn't able to find support there, broke down underneath the kitchen, finding support, range bound, went down, wicked down, grabbed liquidity, and then just shot way up, broke resistance here. It's going to gravitate back towards the cloud. I don't know where it's going to hit. Could it hit like around like 90s, or could it hit like around 80s? somewhere around there. I don't know, but I think price is going to probably end up gravitating towards the cloud next. That's going to be like the next move. There's no reason to think that it's too overextended by any means. It's just looks like a beginning of a bull trend. So I was very, very happy to have bought down here. And even though on the weekly it was really scary because I was looking at weekly Ichimoku cloud and it like really looks like it was just kind of breaking underneath the Ichimoku cloud. But next thing you know, you have this big giant green candle that saved the day and then golf like the last 10 weeks over here. And right now, price has kind of broken back above the Ichimoku cloud and doing a little bit of a back test of the Ichimoku cloud here. Do I think that there's potential for price to come down further back to the high 60s or something like that? There's always that possibility, but I don't necessarily count on it, to happen. If it does end up doing that, I might end up accumulating more because so far the stock's been making nothing but higher highs and higher lows, and this big giant, bullish engulfing candle I think means something. So that really is Shopify. If you ask me how high I think price goes, again, this is just speculation, right? You can draw Fibonacci sequencing and give you like a general idea in terms of where price could potentially go. But I am, pretty bullish, not just on the technicals, also fundamentals of Shopify. I already drew a Fibonacci level here. From the cycle high to cycle low, I generally expect things to potentially hit like 1 plus 6.8 or 2 plus 6.8. If it does anything more than that, I'll be very happy. But I see Shopify going to, triple digits and more over the next like 3 to 5 years. I really do think that like $270 is possible. That's kind of what I'm looking at, and that's a big part of the reason why I'm into Shopify. Last stock that I'm in, let's see, my top 5 is SOFI. SOFI is a very interesting stock. It just simply hasn't had that catalyst. I gotta say, like SOFI, whenever it goes down in stairs. Whenever it goes up, it rides the elevator up, right? You can see that SOFI, once it gets down here, has been forming very, very nice pitch forward where it just kind of bounced from the top range to the bottom range, to near the top range, to the bottom range, to the top of range, to near the bottom range, close to the top range, it just gets to the bottom range, right? It's just been range bound over here brutally for about 2.5 years. And we're at the junction where this could be a little bit of a false breakout, but it seems like we have this big giant trend line that's been happening for a very long time that we got rejected here. Initially had a little bit of a false breakout here, but didn't end up breaking up, right? And got rejected again here as wicks. And then finally, so far, we have a little bit of a candle so far on Monday that is above the trend line. Is this the true breakout? I don't know. It could be another false breakout, kind of like how it was over here. It could be another wick like it was over here. But certainly, currently, it looks like the body candle, the candle body is above the negative trend line over here, which could mean something if it's really able to kind of break above this negative trend line over here. I think the next step is going to gravitate towards going to be around $8, which is going to be a very, very strong resistance. The reason why I think that $8 is a strong resistance, everybody is looking at it. Maybe it's a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, but the bottom of the weekly Ichimoku cloud is around $8, and it's going to be resistance until otherwise proven, right? The Supaichi cloud, the bottom of the cloud, also is around $8. And it's a big, giant, thick, Supaichi resistance cloud, right? You are getting a little bit closer to the weekly upper Bollinger Band, although I think it has enough room for you to kind of hit around $8, and that could potentially be where you're going to end up getting Bollinger Band resistance. So $8 seems to be very much of a short-term price target, and a lot of people are eyeing it. But it's just something to consider. If you look at Bollinger Support Band, it looks like it's flipping back above of it again. It's just been oscillating around the Bollinger Support Band for like 2 years. So this band is a little bit meaningless, but it's also been consolidating sideways for a very, very long time. So whenever you end up having a big, giant, explosive move, it can be quite explosive, right? So far, this whole thing right here, the whole thing right here, the structure over here, has just looked like a big, giant descending, wedge. Generally, these things are bullish. Generally, these descending wedges are bullish, right? And whenever it really truly breaks above, now it hit $8 and we come back test like around 7.3, 7.4, maybe a little bit lower, 7.2, somewhere around there. I can totally see that happening, back testing, and then potentially challenge and ride up the elevator. How far is it going to ride up the elevator? I do not know. Is it going to ride up the elevator up to around like $9 or $10 and that's it? You're not having more sideways. Is it going to end up riding the elevator all the way up to $12? $12 also a lot of people's target. Is going to end up riding an elevator all the way up to like $14, which is going to be more my target. around like May of 2025, somewhere around there. I think there's a possibility of that happening. But so far, it's still underneath a lot of resistance. As we're talking about, you have this diagonal resistance here, you have the weekly Ichimoku cloud resistance here. So you're still having a lot of resistance, right? Even on the higher time frame, I'm going to get rid of all this, even on the higher time frame, you're also hitting some resistance above, right? The Kijun over here is around $8. And then even if you get a little bit above that, you have the Tenkan over here is around 8.2, 8.3. So you still have a lot of resistance up above, right? But with that said, the monthly candle looks very bullish. It's a very nice hammer candle, just like a hammer candle over here. And generally these things work to the bulls' favors, right? So maybe a little bit of back Tesla, maybe a little bit of rejection in September, but I do look and see whether or not there's a possibility that could end up breaking back above and potentially hit some of the more important zones of above that I've been eyeing, which is going to be around like 14 over here. Now, Fibonacci level, if you do from the all-time high all the way down to the all-time low, and you're trying to look for Fibonacci levels, SOFI has been respecting the Fibonacci level almost to the T, right? It came all the way back down, getting rejected from the 0.136, went back up, right? Got rejected by a diagonal over here, but also has been respecting the 0.236 as resistance for a long time, actually to the point it ended up breaking underneath and find support on this channel over here, broke back underneath the 0.136. And right now we're kind of breaking back above that, but it took really like a few months for you to really break above this Fibonacci level, right? So I think SOFI respects the Fibonacci level a lot. I do think that whenever an elevator hits, and that's just one of those stock that SOFI does. Whenever it goes up, it just rides up an elevator, right? So whenever the elevator comes, I think it might end up hitting like 12 to 13 to 14 here in a hurry. I really do think that that's a possibility. But, it's maybe I'm just talking like too bullish. I don't know. It's going to take time. I don't think it's going to happen right away. The reason why I don't think it's going to happen right away is because the weekly Bollinger Band is not ready yet. It still looks, like it needs to broadening up before price can even go up higher. It also looked like the monthly Bollinger Band is also not ready, squeezing a little bit, right? I like the fact that the 20-month moving average is still curling up. I hate the fact that it's still a little bit underneath of that. I would like to see the month close above the 20-month moving average, and we're not too far away from it. If it does do that, and you have this big giant hammer candle over here above the rising 20-month moving average, I think this could end up being in the bulls' favor. Anyway, probably spent a little bit too much time talking about SOFI, but those are my 5 favorite stocks. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good one. Bye.